Hello everyone, thanks for watching this video. Today we are going to the part number 2 of the sustainability measurement features inside Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. So, if you remember from the part number 1, we had a quick introduction about the concept of CO2 emissions. We were also analyzing the sustainability scopes that we have in Dynamics 365 Business Central. And we were also making some navigation inside the sustainability setup page in the system. So today for the part number 2, we are going to take a look in the emission fees, the sustainability account and categories and subcategories, sustainability journal templates and batches, the charge of sustainability accounts, how to record sustainability entries, basically with the sustainability journal. And we will also take a look inside the carbon credits and sustainability certificates. Also, the sustainability goals and sustainability reports and API. So let's start and go to our BC. So if you remember from the first part, we were starting here from the sustainability setup. But before we really start the part number 2, one thing that I would like to clarify, it's also important regarding the configurations that we have to provide in order to use the sustainability features inside Business Central. If we go to user setup, we also have to define there the users that are the sustainability managers. Okay, so here in the user setup, we have a Boolean field here where we can mark to the users that are basically involved in that on those responsibility features inside the system. Okay, so otherwise we have some page where you have to select who is responsible of controlling some sustainability goals, and you will not be able to see users where you do not mark that option. So going back here to the sustainability setup, we already analyzed the fields that we have here available in this page. So now I want to go inside the emission fees. So basically what we have here in the emission fees. Emission fees are basically a way that you have in Business Central to define what is the fee that my company needs to pay or needs to at least to book in order to compensate the CO2 emissions. In some specific countries, for example, you have this defined in the legislation itself. So you already have a place from where you can copy those amounts. Okay. But basically, what I did here, I was setting up few different scenarios here. If we see from the first line, for example, you have to define the starting date of that emission fee, the ending date. So let's say that every year that fee is going to change. So you have to go here and update for the next year. For example, here I'm starting in 2022. I have here 2023. And here you define the emission type, for example, if that is CO2 related or other green gases. You have to define here the scope type. Remember that we saw in the part number 1 of that tutorial. Scope number 1, direct emissions. Scope number 2, indirect emissions. And scope number 3, everything else. So what happens if you don't define the scope here? That rule is basically to be applicable for all different scopes that you have in the sustainability entries. Same thing here to the country code. You can define or you don't define, and you apply this for all different countries that you have booked sustainability entries. And at the end, of course, you have here the carbon fee itself. So here I have defined scenarios without the scope type and country region code, those two first lines, and the other three I have defined the specific scope type and the specific country where that carbon fee is related. Okay, so for example, that line here, it's one example that I took from taxes. So this is published in the web. You can go and search taxes, sustainability emission fees. So you will be able to see that in 2024, that was the emission fee related with the Texas state from US. And here we have a button. Of course, if I change some of those configurations here, the system, when I go to the next line, the system is going to ask if we want to update the related records. So, because of course, according with the rule that you define here, you want to update some open entries that you have. So that's it for the emission fees. I am not going into too much details. So then after this, what we can see here the sustainability account categories. If we click here, so that's a nice list of examples that we have for sustainability account categories. I like to use that example here related with electricity. If I filter here, I think it's simple to understand. Basically, I think that the name is quite clear. It's a way that you have to group the different sustainability accounts that we have inside the system. So we have here that group that it's basically related with electricity. That is the sustainability account category. You have to assign that sustainability account category to one specific scope. Remember, scope number two, it's indirect emissions. In this case, when you are purchasing electricity, so you have an indirect emission of CO2. You have to mark here that this is related with CO2 emissions, not CH4 or N2O. So then here you have the calculation foundation. Okay, if I open here the list of options that we have available, we see that we have option distance, for example, when we are talking about company cars, that is part of the scope number three, everything else, and it's a CO2 emission, we can calculate this by distance. Okay, so as same as we have here, if we are talking about the when you have a business trip, you send someone to a company event or some meeting outside your country, and that person is going to stay there during 5 nights at this hotel. So basically, you can define here that it's a custom calculation foundation, and the custom value, in this case, it's night. So with the custom calculate foundation, you can basically define many different factors to calculate this. In this case here, I'm using night. So good. And then what we can see here, if I go again to the electricity sustainability account category, I can click here in the subcategories to exemplify a little bit more deeper how it works, the subcategories. If we think about electricity, we have green energy that can be solar, for example, or we have also nuclear energy. And those two, of course, are going to have different emission factors of CO2. And of course, when we are talking about a green energy, the factor here is going to be zero, right? So I can type that factor here, and I have also a field here where I can define if that it's a renewable energy or not. So this is how it works, the sustainability account subcategories and categories. And then here what we have, it's also the sustainability journal templates, and that's very similar to the general journal templates that we already use in Dynamics 365 Business Central. In this case here, a very basic scenario of configuration, we have the general journal template and also the recurring journal template related with emissions. So here, if I see the general emission template, journal template, we also have here the batches. And of course, the batches, the journal batches, you can organize whatever you want. But a basic way of organizing this, it's basically splitting the batches according with the scopes. So I can define here that I have my general emission journal, and I have three different, in fact, four different journal batches. One is general, default, and the other three are specific according with the scope: direct, indirect, and everything else emissions. So now let's keep moving inside the list of topics that we have. The next topic, it's basically the chart of sustainability accounts. If we go to the chart of sustainability accounts, what we have, it's basically if we think, for example, about the chart of accounts that it's related with the general ledger entries in Business Central, basically we have exactly the same structure here. Basically, it's a list of accounts that you can use to categorize the sustainability entries that you are going to post in the system. If we use, for example, the same example that we were mentioning before about energy costs, about energy when you purchase energy. So here inside the sustainability account card, we have a few to define the number, the name, the category, and subcategory, as we have discussed it before. You can define the account type very similar to a normal GL account, right? The posting, if it's a total account. So you can define if you have a direct posting or not. Everything very similar. Also dimensions to the normal GL account card that we have. Okay, in the GL entries. So this is basically how it works, the chart of sustainability. And of course, if I go here inside net change column and I go to that flow field, I'm going to see all different sustainability entries that I have posted to that specific sustainability account in the system. So here, for example, that's the group of sustainability entries that I have posted to that specific sustainability account. Okay, once that now we have some clarification regarding the chart of sustainability accounts, we can go to the sustainability journal. So if I type here sustainability journal here. So here I have already predefined some examples of sustainability entries that I'm going to record with the sustainability journal. Okay, so basically those are entries that represent my emissions during, for example, a month or during a week or during a day. According with the size of your business, you are going to have more or less entries here. And how often you post this, it's really up to the business to define. Okay, so basically I'm going to show you how to post this journal. And of course, it really works like a normal general journal in the system. You have here the information that can show you some issues that you have inside this journal. For example, here we have a total of 3 issues. And here the system is quite clear in the description of what you need to correct in the journal before you post this. And the result of posting this journal, it's basically going to be the the sustainability entries. So here, for example, just to give you an idea, I have here that error message, that issue here, that it basically says at least one emission must be specified. So if we think here, for example, about this last line here of my journal, I do not have any emission here. Everything is zero, you see? So why? If the unit of measure here is kilometer, so I need to have here the distance, okay? So let's put here, for example, 100. And now I have my emissions calculated here, for example, of CO2. And I have no issues in my in my journal anymore, okay? So now I can go here and hit post. Do you want to post? Yes. So now my journal is posted. And as a result of this journal, what I have in the system, it's basically the sustainability ledger entries. So if I click here, sustainability ledger entries. So those are the entries that I have posted just now. And of course, I have more here. So this is basically how you record the sustainability entries inside Business Central. Keep moving forward in the list of topics that we have. If I go here now talking more about the carbon credits topic. So if I go here to the list of items that we have in Business Central and I go to our very classical items desk, I'm going to be able to see one new fast tab here that it's basically related with sustainability. So we have basically two different ways of posting carbon credits in the system. Number one, you assign the carbon credit directly to the item that you are, for example, purchasing or reselling. Here, for example, let's say that at Ten's desk, we want to encrypt here some level of carbon credit. Here I'm going to see that per unit of measure, basically per piece. Here in this case, the unit of measure is pieces. So basically here we can define that I don't know, have one carbon credit per piece that I am selling or purchasing of this item. And here we have also a field where we can assign a sustainability certificate. We have some products nowadays in the market that are uh, carbon free, right? And those products usually we have a certificate that the company has related with this item. For example, I'm selling a T-shirt that it's 100% carbon free. So I have a certificate that I'm going to give to my customers saying, "Hey, you are purchasing a T-shirt that it's free of carbon CO2 emissions." So you will basically create a very basic certificate here. I will call this like this. I will put some number and then here certificate of Athens desk. And here I'm going to define if this has value or not. So then I have assigned this already to my Athens desk. The second option of carbon credits in the system, it's basically you can create a brand new product, item inside the system, and you can define that this is a carbon credit item. So you can create purchase invoice of carbon credits. Some business, for example, they are doing like this. They every month, based on their CO2 emissions, they purchase, I don't know, 100 tons of carbon credits, because this is what they were checking according with their emissions. So those are the two ways of using the carbon credit inside the system. And the last topic that we are going to check, it's basically related with the sustainability goals. So if I go here to sustainability goals, sustainability goals are basically a list where we can define what are the goals of the company related with the sustainability. You basically define a list where you assign the owner, you give some description. For example, here I have two options. The first one, it's my Kronos goals related with all different countries where I have my company. And the second line, it's a specific goal of sustainability related only with United States. Okay, so if you remember from the very beginning of this part two, I was mentioned about the user setup where you have to mark a Boolean field to say if that is the sustainability manager or not. So this is where you are going to see here the list of options. If I do not mark this in the user setup, I will not be able to see my user here in that list of owners of that specific sustainability goal. And here you can also define responsibility center if you are using this, and the baseline for comparison regarding the sustainability goal. In this case here, my start and ending date are related with 2024, but of course I want to compare this with the previous year, that is 2023. And here, for example, I have my comparison of all different emissions that I have in 2024 compared with the previous year. So that's basically how it works. The sustainability goals inside the system, and some of those goals are already visible here on your homepage. Thanks for watching.